Here we are, another hot and humid day in Bob's garden, and here's Bob again.
And it's July, about the 6th or something. Maybe it's the, yeah, about the 6th of July.
Having some nice
About
water.
32 degrees, water with some cherries in it from the black cherry tree.
Not this dead one.
Not the dead one, but notice the baby over here. This big, huge
Oh,
green
it's from
thing.
that one?
That's the baby tree.
Is that where you got those cherries?
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, there was a few on it. The birds got the rest. Okay. So
What are we looking at today?
We're looking at this purple bush here.
This guy.
Yeah, let's go have a close look at it. The leaves are kind of round, right? Cylinder shaped, and they're purple and a light a green on the one side, purple on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Clean looking though, isn't it?
It's very, yeah.
Right? Lots and lots of leaves. And come around the back of it. Lots of shade.
It's kind of facing one way. It's like
Right.
facing
Now, why
out
do you
that
think
way.
that is the case?
Because the sun is hitting it somewhere,
Right.
I guess.
The sun's coming from the other side, so it leans toward the sun.
Right.
But it could be because I've cut some branches off of it.
That's true.
Because the branches come up from the bottom. See these new ones down near the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
And if there was dirt here instead of pea gravel, there would be branches coming from underneath the dirt.
Right.
And so if you wanted to, this is a smoke tree, a purple smoke tree.
Okay.
Or some people call it a smoke bush. But it's basically a tree, but it's got so many branches coming from the bottom that if you chop them off and just kept the main ones, you could make it look like a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So they call it a tree. But lots of people call it a bush.
Right.
All right, now let's come along here. I'll show you another one.
There's
By the
another
way,
one.
that one there, I'd say is about 8 years old.
It's looking pretty. There's no smoke on the
Not
old
yet,
smoke
not
bush.
yet. Let's go. Notice, would you say it's in a sunny or a shady area?
Mostly in the shade.
All right, come on around here then.
What a nice garden you have.
Well, I like trees and bushes. Now, here's another one. So the leaves are similar, right?
Yep.
Maybe a little lighter and not as purple. They look a little more green.
They're not as big.
No, and they look a little more green, right? Right. This one is older.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say this one's about 20 years old.
Looks like it's been pruned.
It's been pruned many, 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 many times. I've not only notice the branches right around the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the bottom of the base of the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got to those yet, but I'm going to cut those off later today. Because I want this to be thought of as a tree, not a
Right.
bush. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I've cut all the branches off up to about here to make it look like a regular sort of umbrella type tree.
Yep.
And it's heading toward this, it's leaning toward the southeast because that's where the sun is.
And the tops, it's got like the purple is at the top where the sun is hitting it.
Yeah, now the flowers, they'll appear later on, depending again on how much sun it gets, because the purple smoke tree loves sun.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll adapt to the shady areas because it's a very, very tolerant tree. It puts up with all kinds of stuff.
Like including this big pine
Well,
thing.
we'll get to that another day, but this one here, this purple smoke tree, is loved by many, many people for 3 reasons. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
it can handle any nastiness you can shoot toward it. Like if you don't give it any water, it survives with no problem. If you don't give it any sun, it survives with no problem. If you think it's going to get some kind of a disease, well, it could, but very unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, it is beautiful when the flowers come on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then the flowers, the petals of the flowers fall off, and then the what's left of the stamens and the pistils, they turn into hairs of big, huge puffballs.
Right.
And they're different colors. And as the season moves along, it goes from green to purple to red to orange to yellow. So people love this tree because it does a beautiful job with every part of it.
When's it do all that, you said?
Throughout the season, it's just a regular deciduous tree. So in the spring, after the frost is gone, it starts to do its thing, starts to grow. And then in the fall, it loses all the leaves and goes to sleep for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it also is hardy in that it likes anything from zone 4 to 11.
Oh.
So you could find this anywhere near Toronto, Canada. You could find it along the Mississippi in the United States. You could find it in Mexico. You could find it on the east coast of Canada. It loves dry areas, wet areas, but it loves the sun. And the third reason people like it, so the first one was it's very tolerant to nastiness.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, it provides beauty throughout the whole season. And the third one, you can make it put on a show for your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't plant it near anything else, and you planted it by itself in the yard, people would just come from far and wide to look at it. It's like a movie star. So they call it an ornamental. It's an ornamental tree in that people want it to put on a show for the neighbors and for themselves. The cones that you see up there are part of that
Bug. Yeah. This thing.
tamarack tree behind you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that another day. But this thing, by the way, where did it originate? They're not sure. Was it an American, North American tree, Mexican tree? Well, the white men came here.
Mm-hmm.
Did they bring it from Europe? Because you find it in Europe.
Yeah, maybe.
You find it in Asia too, Southeast Asia, where it's warm. So, how big does it get? Approximately 20 feet. It can get very, very large, and if it's 20 feet high, it'll be 20 feet wide at the top. Yeah.
So the smoke part of the bush, like what's with the smoke?
The smoke part is, remember, you get the leaves, then you get the flowers with the petals,
Yeah.
which could be white, and then you get the petals fall off, and then the stamen and the pistils, which are the male and female sex organs of a flower, they start to grow a little longer as the petals fall off, and they turn into like hairs. And there's so many of them, that makes it look like smoke.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very fine and very puffy.
So there's
So
no point to the smoke like other
It
points?
has nothing to do with fire.
It's like a reproductive thing.
Although it is a very red-looking, dark tree in the fall.
You don't want to take the smoke part off and feed it to, say, a rabbit?
No.
It's probably not healthy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's just a tree that if you don't know what it is and you've never heard of it, and you go to a nursery and you're looking for a tree to buy for your yard, and you see one of these, you'll be buying it.
How much would this cost if you went to your average nursery, like a baby one?
Maybe $40, $50.
You're just giving them away kind of thing?
No, they're remember, they're very hardy. They do.
Right.
There's certain fungus and certain insects that will destroy it, but it's such a hardy tree. It would take a lot of work for that to happen.
Well,
So
right now
not,
it's not.
and you don't have to trim it. You don't have to do anything to it. If you don't do anything to it, it'll be a smoke bush.
Right, it'll just
If
like.
you trim it, it'll look like this for the most part, and have one or two trunks, and it'll be a smoke tree.
So it could be a massive thing right now if you didn't
could
trim
be.
it, right?
And some of the pictures I'll show you on the backyardgnome.com website.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see a picture of it, or you can look it up on the internet on any website and just look up smoke bush, and you'll see what they look like. But remember, they're really a tree.
But it's pretty unassuming at the moment, like you're saying with the, like that serviceberry tree. It's like you might see this on the side of the road or something like that. Would you see this? Would this just grow in the wild, quote
It'll
unquote?
grow anywhere, but the serviceberry, remember, the serviceberry tree is unobtrusive. It's sitting, hiding amongst the other trees.
Right.
And it's delicate, and it doesn't want you to see it necessarily, but the birds love it, and humans love it because it's very easy to look after. But this thing,
Yeah.
this is like bung, it blows up in your face. It's so.
At a certain point, yeah.
It will. I mean, I've got too many other things around here for people to look at.
Yeah, because some trees kind of look like quote unquote weeds, right? Like they just grow on the side of the road, wild, and they don't really have a lot of things drawing attention to them. Like this could be in a cluster.
And if you're buying a tree for your yard, you could buy anything you want. But remember, this one is an ornamental. It's going to put on a show. It's going to make a statement to the neighbors and to your family. And it's one of my favorites. And by the way, I'll post some pictures on the Backyard Gnome site that show the different smoke colors that you can get. There's different. Oh, by the way, it also comes from the sumac family.
Does it?
It's a sumac family tree. Sumacs are cousins.
I thought sumacs are kind of like the poison sumac.
Well, there is a poison sumac, but
The one that gave me a rash that one time.
Well, sumacs are another very tolerant, hardy.
They're everywhere too.
And they're hard to get rid of.
But they're not necessarily. You wouldn't want to like roll around in a sumac necessarily.
No, but sumacs can be pretty in themselves too.
They are pretty. But what about these? Are these dead? Like, are these old ones?
No, yeah, like that looks like the beginning
That's the beginning.
of like I don't think the flower's been here yet. So that could have been last year.
Right, I was gonna say it kind of looks like it's dry.
Yeah,
and
last year.
But so when? What
You don't
point?
have to, you can prune it. You prune it probably after it's bloomed and all the smoke has fallen off. So in the fall, you would trim it and cut it and shape it.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it in the early spring, cut off the old stuff and shape it then, because it's going to take a month or two before, or maybe even 3 before any flowers are going to come on this thing. And remember, flowers like sun, and flowers like water, so it all depends where you put it, and keep it away from other structures too, because you want this thing to be a focal point of your yard.
So what point does the show start with this thing? Like, when do you think we're gonna see some, like?
In about a month.
Then you'll start seeing the colors change, and it's already up there, it's changing, but I guess that's more because of the sun.
Yeah.
But the whole tree is sort of just like waiting for it. It's like, obviously
It's a constant color changing tree throughout the whole season, and it's just wait to see the smoke puffs.
This one will need a sequel for this one maybe, because it's like right now it's like waiting for the big show. So we'll come back, check this one out in a few months.
Or maybe I can post some videos of when it was
yeah, you can throw those
in
in
its
too, I guess.
prime in the fall. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Over.